Alright, sorry. I hope you guys can find this cast and filter back in. The other one dropped, and it won't let me log back on. We'll see if anybody finds me. Let's see. Let's just wait and hang out for a minute. Nobody so far. Let's see. How can I... Oh! Here, JH followed me. Okay, he figured it out. Okay, I see other people coming now too. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I think everybody's using the internet in the neighborhood also. And our bandwidth right now is awful. So I'm sorry if I'm like glitchy too. Okay, everybody's filtering back in. Cool, you guys are figuring it out. Sorry if I lose you again. I don't know. But I was just saying that... Bob Kaler in the house. How's it going, Bob? Welcome. Susan, hello. Good. All right, so I'll let people filter back in. But I was just saying that for me personally, aquascaping and then breeding it's a way to like... You shouldn't be bored. Like, being bored is a luxury. You can be craving more in life. But if you're bored, you're living your life wrong. You're looking at things wrong, in my opinion, because there is so much magic around us. And I don't mean like anything spiritual or anything. I'm not even going there. But just observe things like this curve. Like, try sculpting it out of clay from scratch and see how hard it is to match the detail in this. Try drawing this exact plant. I mean, try replicating anything that's out in nature. And then, yet alone, those fleeting moments of interactions between, like, you know, here we've got our pelvichromis, and they're swimming around, and they're all babies, but now they're getting to the age where they're vying for who's the top dog in the tank. And one of the males is clearly growing faster than all the other ones. So... They're just interesting things like that for me calm me. And I'm like a naturally anxious person, and when I was younger, a depressed person. I don't get so depressed anymore. Now it's more of a, like, it comes fleeting, but it's more of a, what's the word? Like, that I'm not looking forward to anything. And I know to some people that sounds bleak. But that's as bad as it usually gets, is like, I'm just done with today, I want to hit reset, and I know it'll pass. And for me, like, knowing that the fish are here, it's not overwhelming right now. Like, there are times when you have too many things to do, and you gotta, like, downsize, right? But you find that sweet spot of how many you can take care of and what's interesting, and you run with it, and... There's these creatures that depend on you, and you can create really beautiful things. I mean, or help facilitate them create themselves. But, you know, like, to me, this is beautiful. Like, what's going on here? Let's analyze this. There are literally millions of cells, maybe billions, making up this algae cluster. And it was formed by rocking wave motion in a lake. And it's algae. It's not a plant. These moss balls. And then, you know, they're common in Japan in these lakes. I've also seen them in northern Idaho, where I go camping sometimes. I've seen them at Priest Lake, Idaho, in calm like shoals. You'll see them in clear, kind of cold lakes in the summertime. They bloom, and then they roll with the tide rocking them back and forth and they coalesce into a ball. But they're not just one type of algae either. Can you see the little swimmy deals? There's little copepods swimming around. There's seed shrimp in here. There's scuds in here. There's zooplankton and all sorts of stuff right on this little moss ball. It's kind of like the Dr. Seuss, like the stuff going on a lint, a speck of lint or whatever, a speck of dust. There's a whole universe or whatever. Um, and so try to see the world with new eyes. That's kind of why I wanted to start this channel. Was for myself too. Like, remind yourself to see the world with fresh eyes every day. And if you do that, and here I'll bring in a teeny bit of religion, which everyone's like, that's suicide on Facebook or on YouTube. Don't go there on a fish channel. That's insane. But I'm not going with so much an organized religion, but rather an encounter I had where I met some Buddhist monks that were in town from Kathmandu, and they were giving a speech while the Dalai Lama was in town at the University of Washington, and they needed a place to stay, and my neighbor happened to be a professor at the University of Washington, and he said that these monks that spoke barely any English could stay with him. Now, these Buddhist monks happened to they happen to be amazed by everything. Whether it was a bird flying by, they were so happy that there's life. I mean, imagine if you'd never seen a bird, or if every bird in the world died, what that bird would mean to you. And I think a lot of times we take for granted what we have. Just the fact that, like, I can talk, that I have a cell phone, that I have electricity, even if my wireless gives out on us or whatever. But there's all these little things in life that we can be thankful for, especially when you have your basic needs covered. And even when stuff's crappy, you can find good in situations. And I try to tell myself that. I don't always go by that, but aquariums are a nice way to step back from the world and see a world within your house. My wife is home. She just walked by. You probably heard the door. But hey, Patricia, welcome. But basically, like, to me, the aquariums show a miniature version of the world. And just as I may not care about the planaria, and I'm like, go ahead, eat it, shrimp and fish. Maybe I'm not that important in the scheme of the whole world, but maybe I am important, at my level or whatever. And so I try to remember that this is like a microcosm of the entire aquatic world. And we've crazy toyed with it by bringing it indoors and playing with science and like, why is there a Caridina Taiwanese shrimp with like a Japanese shrimp with an Indian Babalti shrimp? That is absurd. But yeah, I just want, the idea with the history stuff is history repeats itself. History has interesting ties. And, oh, there's something beautiful going on over here. I just have to film it. Sorry, guys. Mick, what's up, man? Welcome. But this is magical to me. And you could pass this by and not give it another thought, but we've got a ram's horn snail. We've got a beautiful geometric spiral that is formed, and I've facilitated this from a little egg, like those snail eggs behind it, and brought this shrimp in that people have genetically modified. And there's so many stories to tell. Look at the rock wool behind them. Who invented rock wool? I don't know. Maybe that's something I should look into. And then there's an Anubias, which is an African nanopetite, an African plant. Like, how did all this crazy stuff get here in one scene? Globalism, I suppose. Oh, and we have baby shrimp now. So we have baby, I'm guessing cherry shrimp in this tank. There's cherry, and there's red King Kong and red panda. But I don't know. It's magical, and I appreciated it when I wasn't sober. But when you are sober, and just because you're sober, let me just say this too, like, and that I don't have anything against anyone, even if you're using heroin, honestly, like, or shooting meth or whatever you're doing. I don't have anything against you as a person. You do you. I have something up for how you treat people, and I think certain choices lead to you treating other people poorly or treating yourself poorly and then causing other people to worry about you. And that's the bottom line, is just you only have so much life to live. We all do. And at least in this realm, I don't know whatever anybody else believes, but yeah, and that just really blew me away when I met the Buddhist monks. They were like 50 years old, and they, I had a Korn record album. I was 12 years old at the time. I liked Korn back in the early 90s, the band with the backwards R, the heavy metal band. And I had like dyed hair and stuff, like as an early teenager, like 14 or whatever. But that's when those monks came, and they found like it's so perplexing, but they didn't judge it. They were just like, wow, that exists. And they couldn't communicate really well, but they invited me to make a mandala with them over in my neighbor's yard. And that was a big like point in my life when I remembered thinking like, I wish I could see the world not so jaded, and I wish I could pick apart one thing at a time. And so this channel really does attempt to pick apart subjects at a time. These live casts are a little different in that they, you know, they have a subject sometimes, but these live casts kind of ramble. They're just my thoughts. They're so that I can chat with you guys. And sometimes there's like a contest or, you know, whatever, an update that's interesting. But I've been thinking, especially the last week, because I almost got shot, as I mentioned last week. And so that was another wake-up call. But I had another wake-up call when my mom had a brain aneurysm. And she was dead. She died in the ER. And flatline. And they brought her back, but it had been 12 minutes. And they cut open her skull that quickly to relieve the pressure. And it never made a full recovery in all ways. And I was 17, and I was next to her, holding her hand, saying goodbye. That was like another third giant moment in my life. And before that, I had wanted to be successful, and money was super important, and my car had to have the best sound system, and you know, I was kind of a hippie, but I still like cared about stuff a lot, and if I was cool or whatever, like what other people thought. And it really changed my life, helping her, having to start all over again. At the time, I went into drugs, and I thought, you know, that it was a terrible thing, and it was hard. But I had fish then. I had guppies, is what I was raising in high school. And it was a weird little side hobby that I didn't tell many people about. Like, my close friends knew. I was a pot dealer. And I'm going to admit this because it's legal in Washington, and, you know, whatever. This was 15 years ago, more than 15 years ago. So, whatever. But, yeah. And so I had a very different life then. And I thought, well, I'm changing it. I'm going to live a carefree life. I'm going to live life to the fullest. And I thought that meant going out and cliff diving every chance you can get, and driving fast, and taking hallucinogens, and meeting cool people, and partying, and also, you know, hiking, and but like an extreme life, like sucking up experiences. And at a certain point, you don't get your fix anymore, or if you feel like, I've done that, like, how many concerts do I want to go to, how many this or that. And for me, the thing I keep coming back to is always nature. Like, when I can't take it anymore, or when I'm like, I don't know what to do next, some form of nature has always soothed me, whether it's going for a walk in the woods or whatever it is. And lately, I'm married, and my life is a lot more stable. I still have an unstable life in that I am an artist, and that is not an assured paycheck ever, especially in an expensive city to live in. I have a wonderful wife that backs me up. if I fall, or, you know, I'll save up in between and then have a month where it works really slow and I can spend time on these videos. And then I'll have a month where, like this last one, I worked a lot. But while working a lot, I had another brush this last weekend where I got shot at. Over 15 rounds went by me within 20 feet of me. And I didn't get hit. I don't know how. But that gunman was pointed straight at me, shooting past me, shooting at someone else who was across the street. And I was with the woman who hired me from the city of Seattle. And the guy across the street got hit, but he did not die. He lived. And the gunman got away in the middle of, like, traffic. But I'm in this city surrounded by metal and glass, which also is beautiful too, like in its own way. Like, wow, we built this you know, architecture, like all the things that go into it. But I guess I didn't think I was going to get into any of this in this live cast, but I feel like philosophizing or whatever, like just thinking about things. It's you guys are helping me put words to it, because lately I've felt extra thankful to be in this hobby, to be, let's take a look at the blue bolts while I'm talking. So these are all new from Flip Aquatics, and as you guys may have read already, if you guys ever thanks JH, thanks Susan, if you guys ever, oh, I scared him, want to get shrimp from Flip Aquatics, use the code history with the capital H and then lowercase letters after that. So history and then 10. And that will get you 10% off their entire store. So I talked to Rob before we made a deal of he's going to let me get shrimp that are... he hooked me up with a deal on the shrimp. And basically... I'm way too zoomed in. You guys are going to see all the little flaws in my tank. Like, check these out. Look at, can you see them on the edge of the glass here? Let's see. Just when you think nothing's in your water, like, I didn't put anything in this water when it was getting ready, and there's hydras all over in this tank right now. I got to figure that out. So those are little, the little wiry things. And then there's also planaria in the food. Because I just put fish back in this tank strictly to take care of this problem, to eat some of these things. So there's a couple unhappy guppies that won't be in there long, but they're just kind of ravenous when they're young. So I put them in here, and they've been eating the planaria, and then the killifish have been eating the hydra. Oh, here's some really good hydra. I've done videos on hydra in the past, and oh wow, I'm surprised my new camera can do this. So those are like little stingers, and they're like little anemones, and they grab baby shrimp or adult shrimp or fish, and they sting them like a bee sting equivalent. And over time, it wears down their immune system, and so they're not good. But yeah. So they're pretty crazy. These are definitely intense hydras. And so I'm probably going to take some and put them under my microscope again, in that these ones are really prolific. They're a different strain. Had some that were like totally clear. These have like a green tinge to them, if you can see that at all. The last ones had like a yellow clear tinge. So this is a low pH setting, and a lot of times here, when I've set up a low pH setting, I've noticed that I get hydra. And so there's something up with that. Also, there's some gold bee shrimp in here. And so, yeah. Yeah, if you want me to send you... Do all fish eat planaria? No. But planaria are basically a form of white worm, but let me show you exactly why they're bad. And this, you're going to see right here that I screwed up. So this shrimp, I left it here for today, well, for a different video, but let's do it now. So this shrimp passed away, and these are planaria, and they're eating it. Now there's mold um, growing on there also, but there are these little worms that are going to eat this shrimp. And these mold spores, let's see, are fungi. And then the little worms are planaria, which is a vague name for a lot of parameciums. But if you let that fuzzy stuff, those little balls on the end, if you let see the fuzziness has little balls in some spots, if you let that bloom, it'll then spread in the tank. So I gotta scoop it out real soon. But one of the shrimp passed away after I put it in, and I didn't notice it until today when I was like scooping stuff around and I moved some stuff. But one out of the whole batch passed away, which isn't too bad. But I kind of wanted to see what would happen in this different tank. And they do look like a little too much like tapeworms or tube worms or flatworms, pinworms, things like that. But they are not a parasite. They are simply, they eat detritus. But what they do is they form colonies with bacteria and other things, and they create a layer along with aufwuchs, which are bacteria, yeasts, and protozoa, and all sorts of things. And basically, bacteria forms a layer. Let's use this tank as an example. So pretend this whole tank is a slimy layer a millimeter thick. And the bacteria have this protoplasm, not ectoplasm, but protoplasm. They have this layer, it's a film, and they build this sticky thing along surfaces. If you've ever, like, it feels slimy to humans, but to little things it's sticky. It's like a gel. And it's made out of building block aminos for life. And it's the goo that's in between all the parts of a human cell, too. It's the very basic essence of life, basically. And when you're cycling a tank, when you feel something and it's slimy, kind of slick, that's you say that's your good biological bacteria. But that's an aufwuchs. And an aufwuchs is a colony, and I have to say it carefully because now my videos are getting marked as being inappropriate for saying it the way it looks like it's spelled, which is like what is it? AWFC or UCH, I don't know, whatever. Sorry, I'm not spelling that right at all, but it looks like Auf, you know the rest. But Aufwuchs, so they're in here in this layer, in this slimy layer that's so small that humans just think of it as biofilm. And they'll trap one kind of protist. They'll trap a photosynthetic, like let's pretend these blue endlers are photosynthetic, and the guppies, or the females, are zooplankton, and the babies are fungal spores, and they all work together, and this bacteria has evolved. Yes, Hydra can kill shrimp. Thank you, Water Wizard. That is how you spell it. Yes, Hydra can kill adult shrimp through stress, and they can kill baby shrimp straight up. I have a video of that on my site, if you go back, where a Hydra is capturing baby shrimp and stinging them, and they'll jump back, and then they sting them again, and it's kind of rough, but it didn't kill the baby in that case. But these are pretty big. I'm going to need to do something about this. I'm going to probably take those out of there for a minute and maybe use a dewormer in there, even like levamisole or something along those lines. But so let's say that with the yes, thank you, Water Wizard. It is German for growth on, or growth within, growth. I don't know. I think the translation slightly doesn't work, but that's close enough as you're gonna get. But within these colonies, you can get lots of different things. You can get harmful things, you can get parasitic things, or you can get really good things. And so that's why we do certain things. We use catappa leaves, we use cholla wood, we use plants. and fish that clean up folks. That's why I friggin' love shrimp, is they eat off of those, especially baby shrimp and baby fish. Like even small endlers are gonna eat that. You can see sucker fish eating off of that and algae and things. You can see the catfish kicking it up right here. They're making a big old mess. And these little babies are getting really cute, by the way. They're coloring up really fast. I'm going to have to rehome 12. Like, this tank is pretty busy. And I'm going to have to rehome 12 Pelvichromis, Tinniatus, Maliwes. Down the wormhole. Hey, wormhole. Did somebody say wormhole? Betsy, welcome. You made it. Yeah, Betsy, you probably won't like that image that was just on the screen. The other thing is we have food is molding in this tank. And I'm only having this happen when I drop the pH with the Brightwell soil and all the tannins and stuff. And so I think I'm going to try to get more movement in the water. I'm going to put a hang off the back on that. Maybe a power head. And the pH could come up more because it's at like 5.5 right now, and it can come up to like 6.5 easily for shrimp. And so yeah, I'm gonna bring that up and see if that can kick things down a notch. At least I'll have to take the shrimp out and put them down here. I don't know if that's more of a shock, or I don't know. I'll have to do some thinking after this live cast. If you have an opinion, let me know, because I do want to get rid of the hydra. Obviously, I'm going to clean this tank out and get rid of the dead shrimp and the food as soon as we're done here. But there's a lot of paramecium that just sprung up as the shrimp came in from flip. It's not nothing about that. It's just that the killifish were eating a perfect amount of their food, and the shrimp or the worms are living in this substrate eating out folks. And Harrison, take care. So paramecium, hydra, all those things are eating microscopic stuff, plankton and things, and living in the substrate. And when you start feeding shrimp and things, they're messy eaters. And even if you put it in a tray, they'll run off with it thinking they're sly. And they're going to like save it for later or something. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what a shrimp thinks. But they try to hold it for their own. And they hide it. And so, yeah, that's one thing they do. And then the worms eat whatever's molding. And that mold is also a culture that they eat. Now in here, I just wanted to point out, this is my drop tank for, I don't know where the heck you came from, shrimp. Because when you start having a colony in every tank of Neocaridina, you get a lot of those. Like, you'll grab a slab of hornweed or whatever, hornwort, and like, I'll grab this, and maybe there's a teeny baby on there, and I'll try to shake it and dip it, and if you were careful, you can do feed big pellets that they can't move. So I do that, but then those mold. So these were those big pellets, whereas the stuff that Flip Aquatic sent me, these Shrimp King little teeny micro pellets, I don't even see them eating those. Like, they're so small, I can't even tell. But yeah, so I'm trying both, but not an issue in this tank with a higher pH. I mean, relatively. And I've been siphoning them out every day. But like I said, sometimes they carry them off. So you want a certain amount of those protozoa. Heather, what's up? Was that Verona? Yeah, Verona Aquatics. But you want a certain amount of life in the water. But you have to keep it in balance. It's all a fine balance. Just like how you live your life with sobriety or anything else, right? If you want to drink, don't drink too much. If you want to be sober, don't be... No, just kidding. So, yeah, that's what's going on down there. I want to hang out up here. It's a little cooler. Calcium is very important for shrimp. Yep. I have a couple videos on that. But calcium carbonate is in a lot of rocks, like limestone and dragonstone clay sometimes, and they need it. But you can add eggshells or crush up cuttlefish cuttlebone. What I like to do is the alfolks that we're talking about. Alonzo, welcome. The alfolks we were talking about, the bacterial slimes and coats, like here's algae, but that assuredly has an alfolk in it. And basically, that surface there, and these I just take out and I clean by hand right now because this tank is still cycling. But the shrimp, these are a mono shrimp, by the way, they will eat it, and actually it just pooped. They poop perfect little pellets. But they'll eat this algae, but what they're doing more than just eating the algae is they're like eating the little crustaceans and things out of the algae, in between the algae and on the plants. And so will guppies. Guppies will actually start eating the algae if they need to. Like if I didn't feed them, they would be not doing this. So maybe I shouldn't feed them. I don't know. But yeah, these Amanos are really beautiful. These Amanos, by the way, also came from Aquatic Arts, and they have a code that they have offered me for you guys, because my deal is I will check out people's products, and happily so, but I will tell them the truth, and I'll say the truth about their products, and I will ask for a code so that my viewers get something out of it rather than just an ad or a review. So if you want to buy something, like a lot of these plants came from aquatic. I don't have limpets, by the way. I didn't know that there were freshwater limpets. Shows what I know. Not a lot. I have little ramshorn snails and nearite snails. But if you want to buy something from Aquatic Arts, which is a fairly good website too, like very nice customer service, I should say, I would recommend using the code SECRETSHRIMP10 in all caps. And the more people that buy stuff from either Flip using history with a capital H and then the number 10, all one thing, at Flip Aquatics, and that's everything on his store. And the more people that go to Aquatic Arts, and by the way, this is my pair of Crebensis Pulcher, Pelvicochromis Pulchers, and they're really beautiful. They're yellow. I know they kind of just look green like everything else in the tank from the reflection, but they're yellow and white, and they are very cool. I like them right now. They're one of my favorites to watch in the tank. But she is full of eggs. You are correct. These are fun fish, but they will eat every single one of your darn shrimp. They are like shrimp eating machines, and they are so quick and hard to catch. He will color up. So she is this one here, the she, and she has color whenever she's got shrimp, or whenever that's probably why she's colorful. She's fat and happy. They ate 50 cherry shrimp out of this tank. I didn't realize they would be that voracious. I thought my shrimp had like outsmarted all the tetras and other stuff. Yeah, cribs are a different story. They just mangled the shrimp in this tank. I like did an evacuation and got as many as I could out, but they ate 50 in like 4 days. But they're cool fish to watch because they mate for life. They're monogamous fish. See, you can see their colors a little better here. Sorry about the reflection. I think you can still see her pretty good though. But they mate for life, and they do really interesting dances. And you see that purple spot on his center there? He will match her when she's in full color. He'll color up throughout the day and do these dances where he shakes and then she shakes, and they do like these really intricate like swimming backwards and then swimming sideways. And to me, like, whenever I want to like get home and I'm stressed, I'm like, I want to like have a drink, just as I was saying to JH. Instead, I come here and I just quietly watch the tank for a while. And I'm like, I'm not getting chased by any big fish right now. I've got a warm place to sleep. I can feel my emotions, and sometimes that's really hard to do. There's a lot of things in your life that are painful. Um, in a lot of our lives, anyways. I've had a lot of trauma. A lot of people died. A lot of friends died because of the lifestyle I was living. Out of my graduating class, I think 9 people have died of overdoses. So yeah, and another 7 or 8 died in car crashes since then, since high school. Last 15 years, 12 years. So, um, yeah, but I look at the fish and life, it's complicated for them in their fish world, but it's so simple for me. I mean, it's so peaceful. And the plants too. Um, no, somebody asked, is the reason you have a lot of allergic reactions since drugs? No, actually, um, it's probably, they don't know for sure, but it's probably lupus. Um, and it started up well after I quit, and it's very stress related and very allergy related. And then I have herniated discs in my neck that cause me immense pain, and make my arm go numb. And as an artist, that's not the best thing. But yeah, so I had the back pain before, and it helped immensely to do substances, obviously. And I still don't deny medical treatment within reason. If I had to go to the ER or something, like my leg's not working that day or whatever, or if I'm having an anaphylactic shock or something, I'll take whatever they want to give me. But it's under somebody else's supervision or my wife's. Um, and she obviously knows the story. And so, yeah. And once again, if you're just joining, you do you. I'm not telling anybody to do anything. But for me, since I quit drinking, I realized the connections in my life that were real and that were fake. And some of the people I drank with, there were real connections. Like we met over at a bar or whatever, and it turned into a real connection. But I was tired of every story I had was like, oh, Friday we went out and we did this and we were so hammered and we did this. And then it got to the point where like, oh, I'm so stressed. I've earned this when I get home. I'm going to have a drink. It never interfered with my life, honestly. Like, I did some crazy things when I was young, but for me personally, I was very fortunate. Here's another Amano shrimp from Aquatic Arts right in here on this beautiful jadeite that I got from the North Cascades. This one's green and blue. It's kind of cool. But yeah, I never... and there's another yellow shrimp. I love these yellow shrimp by Lucas Bretz, LRB Aquatics. I think he still got some. And then the marbled... suckerfish that I've got. Love that too. I hadn't seen that before, but just another flair to an Otocinclus. Where was I? So, basically I was just saying that for me it became the status quo. I wasn't having fun without it, and I wasn't feeling when I didn't want to go out and have fun. I was using it too much to I don't know, numb that, especially when my mom was going through that as a teenager and stuff. Because I didn't have anybody to look after me really during that time, because I was trying to help. My dad was having a really hard time with it all, and working and trying to hold it together with a $2 million 2 brain surgery bill, keeping her in the ICU on life support with insurance all screwed up before ACA, refinancing the house and everything for my senior year was rough of high school. And then before that I was messing around with substances, but after that, it was my escape. So, just being personal with you guys, just letting you know. But I think a lot less people in the U.S. would do substances to the level of self-harm if, yeah, in the Netherlands, you guys have socialized health. I think a lot of people would do a lot better with life if we knew that there was a retirement plan and health, and that like one thing like a heart attack or cancer or a stroke couldn't end up costing you millions of dollars, even with insurance, like your copays and stuff. And you're, like my drugs for like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, whatever you want to call it, for autoimmune drugs, they can be up to $1,800 an injection. You go get an injection, and that's the copay. The actual drug's like $6,000 for one syringe of it that they inject. And same with HIV medicine and things like that. So it's really wrong, in my opinion. That's my political view, that we need to figure something out. And even if that means paying more, it means paying less when it comes down to it. Like, if you have your needs met, they find that $74,000 in the U.S. makes people happy. I live in Seattle, Washington, which is actually a really liberal city. But they find that if you have $74,000, which they say in most parts of the country, bar for Seattle or San Francisco or Miami or New York, wherever, big cities, that's enough money, they claim, that you shouldn't have to worry about things financially as long as you don't spend things poorly. I'm in Seattle. And they find that 74,000 is also the cutoff where people don't get any more happy with the more money they have over a decade's time surveying them. Same with people who win the lottery. A lot of times they're less happy when they can have whatever they want whenever they want it, and people fighting and things over getting access to it. By the way, I just want you guys to see, like, with my eyesight, and that red, it doesn't look as red underwater. Looks like a pink for some reason on the camera. But the temple plant from Aquatic Arts is off the hook. It is beautiful. And they send you, like, I think like 8 or 10 stems in a bunch. So I recommend that. If you guys are looking for a cool plant, that's always a good one. It can be very pretty. Rotterdam, yeah. Water Wizard lives in Rotterdam. Can I come live in Rotterdam? Actually, no, my wife and I have seriously discussed moving somewhere like Europe. I love the U.S.'s, I love the Northwest in theory. I love the people and the fact that I have a bunch of cool coastal influence. We have Japanese culture, Chinese culture, all these different cultures that bring us things like yeah, my wife says food. You want to be on camera, honey?
Hello.
My wife says hello. And yes, oh yeah, and you guys, I just saw a message that says, "Hey, do you have CO2 kicking?" Yeah, I do have CO2 going in this tank. So that is why it's so red. And I have dosed it with minimal amounts, but I have dosed it with iron. But I don't have like a high-tech atomizer or diffuser. I've got a cheap PetSmart Airstone type deal. But it works great, that. And really it's the head of the device here, the valve regulator, and the why can't I find words today? The electrical part. I feel so dumb for not remembering the name of this right now. In any case, it's this stuff that's expensive. This piece right here was like $60 on Amazon. I should list it because this is a really good one. I'm really happy with it. And it came with the needle valve and the bubble valve. This was $1. This was $6. Not the regulator, but the shoot. Solenoid, thank you so much. Gosh, that was bugging me. And then this bottle I got for 20 bucks. So, you know, 70 bucks to put this together. And what I do is I put it for 6 hours to 8 hours on each of these tanks up here. I can move it around. So I run it on different tanks at different times for different things. But just keep in mind that does change the pH a little bit. And it drops a little. And you don't want to use it overnight because you don't want to kill the fishies with the gas. So, honey, what are you up to? Are you gonna live cast your fish? Okay, you want to show them what your costume for? We celebrate solstice because we're pagans.
Seattle celebrates.
Seattle actually just has a big naked festival where people ride bikes around the city, and
I wanted to be a flamingo,
like 30 or 40,000 people probably show up, I'd say. Yeah. And my wife wants to be a flamingo this year.
But that's pretty hard to pull off. So I'm going to buy this adorable flamingo dress, and we'll have many accessories to go along with it.
So, yeah.
And my husband, Alex, will wear a shirt.
Oh, here, guys, this is what I'm wearing. I found this out.
We found a really awesome shirt that will go perfectly with my dress.
And to which I responded, I'm going to look like John Waters. And if you guys don't know who that is, Google it. And then don't watch the movies unless you have a high tolerance for sex and violence and bizarre films. I think CO2 is key in having a nice, healthy green tank of plants. I have a lot of plants in my tank, high nitrates, that are not being used by the plants. Yeah, it is a Jimmy Buffett shirt, for real. You live in the Virgin Islands. You probably have to put up with people wearing shirts like that all day long. Not put up with it. It's actually useful when you live somewhere where you have a lot of sun. This tank does not have CO2. I just wanted to tell you guys that. I don't run CO2 on this tank. This tank just has too many fish. And I just make sure that the nitrates stay at like 20 and take care of it. Yeah, if you like John Waters, I do too. Nothing offends me. I have a problem with that. I mean, like, I don't have a problem with much. I've seen it all. I live in a really liberal city, and I grew up around some really, really bizarre subcultures and stuff. And almost nothing shocks me anymore through my travels and tattoo artists and stuff like that. Okay, you love shirts like that.
Yeah, don't know.
I'm causing problems here, honey. You are. See, this is why I don't have my wife on this channel with me.
I'm buying it because I like it.
She's buying it because she likes it. I can't stand anything that chokes my neck. It's like, it feels like the man corporately choking my neck. Sorry, that's kind of an inside joke. As someone who's been an artist and done silly, ridiculous jobs most of their adult life. My wife probably doesn't want to hear it. She has to deal with real big company stuff. I do too. I just worked for the city of Seattle recently. That job that I got shot at. It's all the fashion in the UK, huh? Can you show the guppies in the other tank? I have lots of fish in my tank. Take care of my tanks. Use GH booster. Several kinds of ferts. Root tabs. Still some of my plants are just not doing well. Get a... Yes, JH. I am more than half North Scottish, Pictish. So, just thought I'd throw that in. And then I'm French. And then I'm 25% North African and Jewish, which, what? I'm blonde hair, blue-eyed most of my life. Now my hair's kind of browner, but, what? Yeah, I took one of those DNA tests. Kind of odd. Is my mom's side of the family, the Jewish side, happened to be Palestinian and Egyptian or something at some point. But, like, back, like, enough generations that it was, like, half that, half Ashkenazi Jews. And then my dad's family is all Scottish and Native. We thought they were Native American for a long time. But if they are, it's a very small percentage. It's like 1%. But they have been in America a while. But they were Pictish, and we did have a lot of sailors in the family. You know those tests are kind of a joke, right? Kind of. They are kind of a joke. But there are certain haploid groups that can narrow down where you're from. Genetics are a funny thing, though. It's only as good as the data they have. These endlers are not actually gonna like. There's one guppy, and the rest are all or two guppies. Sorry, they're all males in here, and the rest are endlers. And these are the ones that I'm breeding. This is what they look like, the Japanese blues, when they grow up. Now that I've crossed them, and the whole point of crossing them was to get yellow on their tail, and they're starting to get white, which I'm hoping if I cross them one more time, they'll get yellow. But then the real challenge was now the females of these have a blue or green streak on their tail. And so I can tell them apart from the leopard endlers, which have nothing. And so if I happen to accidentally mix it up, yeah, I can figure out the females sometimes too when they're mature. But this is called a blue sky endler, and these are really close to wild. To wild genes that naturally just divergent evolution in Germany over 20 or 30 years. And they're called blue sky endlers, and they're very pretty, I think. And they also are kind of dumb, probably because of line breeding, but they just spend all day looking at themselves in the mirror. I love endlers. These are Lucas Brett's line that I've been breeding green into, and then breeding the round tails into, or the paddle tails. That's not a good example. The perfect example is the tank downstairs. I do have leopard versus tiger, so this is focus. So I have, these guys are the leopard endlers. The tiger endler tank that I'm working on, there's only one male in here because he's far superior, and he's the only one I want breeding. Of course he's hiding. Where are you? He'll come out in a sec. All right, let's read these things. Scotch Irish. It's my understanding if you give them your DNA, you don't own it. They can't do anything with your DNA other than look at it and identify it. So, I mean, yeah, you sign away that they can use it in studies saying that, oh, people from Scotland tend to do this, so let's market drugs to people who are Scottish in the future if that becomes common knowledge or they list that on Facebook. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, but I won't get into all that. If you want to talk to me on Facebook about it, I am big freedom. What now? All the endlers are being dumb. It's the time of day where the light makes everything reflect off the sides. This is my star. This is my man. So he's got a blue tail. If you can't see it really, but he's got a blue tail with a red streak in it and perfect tiger stripes. And then he turns purple in certain lights. That yellow turns purple somehow. And he's got a bluefin on his back. But he's breeding with 6 females in here right now, I think. And that's the line that I'm really working on. So, and basically the goal is, like, Lucas wants me, I think, to send back. He's at the American Live Bears Association right now. I wish I could have gone to Michigan. But he wants me to send back those, like, all the fish he's sold to people that people haven't crossed but they've selectively bred. He wants to see them, like what people have created with the genes that he handed over. And I'm just selecting line breeding. I'm not interbreeding or interstrain breeding, I should say. We're going back downstairs. Okay. Downstairs. Check out this CO2 thing. This needs to be cleaned. Transhumanism. Oh boy, we can get into that. Yeah, upload your humanity onto a satellite and travel around the universe for 4 million years and then come back when it's ready to have a body. There's lots of, yeah, I took a whole class in college in anthropology because of the archaeology degree that was like a fun class, and I thought it was going to be an easy, silly class on transhumanism. And it's like an entire field. It's called cyborg anthropology, and it's about post-humanism and transhumanism and the singularity. And this was 10 years ago, before the singularity was being thrown around in mass media. But check it out. It is insane. Uh, the sci-fi and sociological implications of that. Maybe I can tie the singularity into fish tanks one of these days. I don't know. But these are the Japanese blue that were shown upstairs. These are all females. And this is what I worked on, was getting slight yellow or green in their tails. And that took 5 generations. And the male with the yellow is the one breeding, because that's the trait that I want the most. And he always wants to breed with this one with the screwed up spine, and that spine is from not enough calcium, and possibly manganese or magnesium to help bind the calcium. So everything you put in your tank, realize, just like vitamins, you have to absorb those things. So your plants, you can throw in all the nitrogen you want. You can throw a brick of pure nitrogen in there. Well, you can't, but it's a gas. But if you could, you throw a brick of nitrogen in there. One, you'd overdose your plants. But it needs to have other compounds like oxygen and carbon to bond to. Oxygen specifically for nitrous oxide or carbon dioxide, nitro dioxide, those kind of things, NO2, so that it can get into your plants, because they can't handle, well, some plants can, but most can't handle those elements alone. And so you need to ask yourself, when you're dosing the macro and micro fertilizers, both of them, like if you put potassium in, that will be usable on its own. But if you put nitrogen in, is there enough oxygen in your tank? Your fish ventures, you could use, yes, I agree. And they could all be down here, but this is like the guest bedroom. So I come home and I like to lay right here and watch the fish do their thing. And then I'll put my wife's handy dandy Grateful right around midnight. They get real crazy too. Like midnight to 2 in the morning, they get real crazy. And they breed